Let me tell you, some of those parents can get fired up when you call their child out at a close play at second base. I can attest to that, and certainly, probably most people had no idea that I, was a janitor partway through college just to help pay the bills. So we're beginning to tell that side of the story, and certainly why I'm running. Look, as the statement goes, the times have chosen us, and the uniqueness of the challenges of this country, of what's happening right now, both politically, socially, and otherwise, I believe makes my style of leadership more necessary now than perhaps at any time in my life. And that is that, again, I'm someone that holds powerful people accountable, tries to find practical ways to make government work better so we can improve the lives of everyday residents of the South Central Pennsylvania, the state, or the country, going forward. But most people, again, had no idea that I was the only child of a convicted felon in statewide office in the United States. My dad was wounded in Vietnam, got addicted to painkillers. The VA didn't exactly do right by him. He certainly made his share of mistakes and ended up incarcerated. Now he's out now and he's doing fine, but that certainly is an aspect of my life when it comes to treating drug addiction like the disease it is, reforming the VA so it's actually looking out for our vets. And those are all critical components in justice reform. While he was incarcerated, my brother passed away. So when I was a freshman in high school, we found out my brother, who was 7 at the time, had muscular dystrophy. Now, we didn't call it this then, but now we would refer to that as a pre-existing condition. We were never able to have health insurance for him. So when he passed away, when I was a first-year night law student at Widener, not only was my dad incarcerated, which obviously has an impact on your family's income, but we were never able to have health insurance for him. When the Affordable Care Act was passed, with all its strengths and weaknesses, we know it has both. One of the things that always pleased me, I was a state house member at the time, was it did protect people with pre-existing conditions so that no family would have to go through what we went through when he passed away. We obviously know that's under threat now. There's a federal lawsuit trying to overturn the whole act, and Scott Perry has voted 12 times to basically take away protections for people with pre-existing conditions. So that's a background of who I am, some of my life challenges. Look, yeah, I played football and baseball in high school as a state champion football player, but let's be clear, the Steelers and Eagles were not exactly putting me higher on their draft board. People say, oh, Eugene, you had a tryout with the Kansas City Royals. I said, I had a tryout with the Kansas City Royals. How did it go? And I said, I had a tryout with the Kansas City Royals. So that tells you how well that went. Played, baseball and football in college. Certainly sports is a big part of my life. But that all shapes of who I am in these times we're in right now, and how my empathy for people that are challenging right now during COVID, both from healthcare and the economy. Now we got to make sure that this economy is getting back on track. We're getting people the help they need and moving it forward so that people have a chance again to achieve the American dream. So this is part of who I am and part of what I'm fighting for. And certainly people, that know that I've been around, with York Dems for a little while, or sometimes if you haven't seen me in a little while, are shocked to hear that Ben's going to be a junior in college in just about 2 to 3 weeks, 3 weeks when the semester starts. That can be shocking. And yes, Sarah, our youngest, believe it or not, is going to be a senior in high school this year. But that also lets me know that it's not just my student loans I'm worried about, but it's also Ben and Sarah's as well. So we've certainly got to reform the student loan industry. And look, I'm blessed to, as a family, we're able to pay for this stuff. Although, I'm not going to say it's impossible that we won't have those challenges down the line as well. But I've talked to so many families, the fear of sending their kids to college because of what the cost of higher education is going to be. We've got to turn that on a dime because it's simply too expensive for middle-class Pennsylvanians and working-class Pennsylvanians. And we have to address climate change as a moral crisis as it is. And each of those areas is something I've touched on in my role as Auditor General, which has been, you were one of the ones at the very beginning. There's probably some people tuning in. When I was an unknown state rep with no money, somehow just driving across the state, and we got a little wind at our back, ended up winning that election. And here we are now in one of the 5 or 6 most competitive congressional elections in the country. And I'm honored to be the standard bearer of this party in doing that. We had a very tough competitive primary. Tom's got a great future. He hustled his tail off. He made me better. Hopefully I made him better. We had a, private conversation afterwards, but we jokingly said, you never underestimate a Division III athlete. He played basketball at Dickinson. I played football and baseball at Worcester. When you're a Division III athlete, that means you're paying your own way through school and you're doing the same work as a Division I athlete while also needing to go to class. Because just the spoiler alert, when you're not the starting quarterback at USC, it's a little bit different on the academic standards. And I knew Tom was going to be tough on that, but he made me better. I made him better. And I think our party is better because we had that contest. We've got a great slew throughout South Central Pennsylvania, State House, State Senate candidates, certainly some here in York County. I know Shanna's doing a great job in the State Senate race. We've got a great slew of State House candidates as well in York County, but I know throughout South Central Pennsylvania, we're going to flip some seats. And I think certainly George, who did such a good job in the congressional race last time, he's running for State Senate as well. I think he's going to win that seat in Dauphin. I think Shanna's going to win in the York Cumberland district. And I think we are going to put South Central Pennsylvania on the map, not just for the Democratic Party, but for nationally. This is a changing region. We know this from our own polling. It's the entire region is in play now. That doesn't mean it's locked down for us either. That means it's going to be very competitive across the board. I'm looking for the challenge, and together we're going to beat Scott Perry, who's one of the most ideological, far-right members of Congress. He is out of the step of the needs of this district. And just even today, the York Dispatch ran a story where basically he does not back down from the idea that he supports privatizing Social Security and Medicare and is willing to support gimmicks that will take money out of it to try to help him short-term politically, but devastate seniors and American healthcare for the next generation. And we're not going to allow it to happen. So thank you for being on this call and for all the support, and happy to answer any questions that I know you have some, and if there's some others out there as well. Thank you, Chad.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And obviously, you've touched on a little bit there at the beginning, but obviously we know the biggest threat right now to both Pennsylvania and the United States as a whole is the current COVID crisis.
Right.
When you're elected to Congress, what is one thing that you think you can do immediately that's going to ensure some type of relief, whether it's locally or nationally, for those most affected by this pandemic?
Regardless of what I would have said 2 years ago or a year ago, right now, the next Congress is going to be the most important Congress since the 1933-34 Congress, Franklin Roosevelt's first term. And we've got to get direct help to small businesses. We've got to get direct help to families so people can survive until this pandemic is licked and we're able to move forward in our lives and grow the economy and get back to some semblance of normal. So we've got to do that at the same time. And I never thought this would be a political talking point, but we've got to listen to the scientists and the health experts on how to make sure that we minimize this pandemic as much as possible and hopefully get it over with, while at the same time working on a vaccine so that we can get people vaccinated and getting back to some semblance more. We need to do all three things of those. And we have to basically walk and chew gum at the same time on doing all three of those. And that will be a critical priority at the beginning of the next Congress and what will hopefully be a new administration.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's I agree with you about the politicization of this. It's unbelievable. I often say I often say to folks, I'm not sure when we lost confidence in the experts and those that are knowledgeable in these fields. So thank you for
and by the way, for some that are out there that say, oh, there's different information now than 6 months ago. Well, of course, that's what science does. That's what health does. They analyze everything. They're continually updating. You don't want to be frozen in time on March 18th. I'd like to think that we know a lot more, and we do know a lot more about the virus now and what helps and what doesn't help than we did March 18th. So of course, guidance is going to change throughout the time. Yeah, as well it should, as new information becomes available. So it's not so much that they were wrong March 18th. That on March 18th, they did the best they could with what they had. And now today we know a lot more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, in the midst of this pandemic, one of the kind of the underlying issues that has bubbled up again, that has never really gone away, is the argument about criminal justice reform here in the U.S. What can be done in Congress to adjust the social inequities that often result in the unfair or in some cases no due process within our criminal justice system?
I think a couple of things. Certainly, hopefully the new president will put some smart and tough people. You can be smart, you can be wise and tough in the Justice Department that can look at how a lot of these cases take place. I think as a Congress, we can reform criminal sentencing for nonviolent felons. We can treat drug addiction like the disease it is. We can make sure people have access to quality counsel, because a lot of these cases go south because the lawyer that's representing someone is incompetent, or they don't have the resources to provide good representation, even if they're a good attorney. So I think all of those are critical components. And I also believe, particularly when it comes to medicinal marijuana, that at the federal level, we've got to remove marijuana as a Schedule I narcotic. It is not the same as heroin. That will allow states to, even if they don't want to go further, to at least make sure that under federal law it's okay to have medicinal marijuana, allow insurance companies and banks to get involved in it. And we got to make sure that our vets, in Pennsylvania right now, if you're a vet with TRICARE benefits, which is your military insurance card, you can't get medicinal marijuana even if you're wounded in battle, because it's still illegal at the federal level. We've got to address that as well.
Great, thanks. I know earlier you talked a little bit about your opponent. We know obviously he is within his political sphere is very far right, very conservative, and he's made it very clear over the years that he's bought and paid for by his campaign donors, and that he's really unresponsive to the people in the district. What do you plan to do to make sure you're representing all of the voices in the congressional tent, and not just those that are going to agree with you politically?
So, Chad, it's a great question, because at the end of the day, look, I'm a Democrat. I'm proud to be a Democrat. But if I'm honored to be the member of Congress from here, I represent what in this area is close to 800,000 people that live in this congressional district. Just like as Auditor General, I believe that I represented the near 13 million Pennsylvanians. And there were times when I was tough on Governor Wolf, even though I support him politically and otherwise, and certainly voted for him twice. But there were times I was critical of his administration. Governor Corbett, I was critical there, but there were times where they did it right, and I said so. So I think when you look at how I behaved as Auditor General, when I ran for re-election in 2016, I had every single newspaper in the state endorse me that endorsed, and it was the vast majority of newspapers. And the other thing is important to keep in mind, I was the only candidate that was endorsed by both the Pennsylvania Business Roundtable and the AFL-CIO. Why? Because I was tough and fair across the board. So if I'm honored to be the member of Congress, look, I'll be a Democrat, obviously, and that's, I'm proud to be a Democrat. But on the same token, my number one job is looking out for this district. So I've promised to have 4 in-person town hall meetings. Now, recognize if COVID is still in full force, we're going to have to, adjust that to a degree. But I want to hear from everyone's voice. I know this happens with Congressman Perry. They have the telephone town hall meetings. I'm not here to tell you I'll never have a telephone town hall meeting. That's absurd. If I'm in DC, we got a big issue coming up. Obviously we're going to do something along those lines. But we're not going to be screening calls just so, my mom's asking 3 questions, and I'm exaggerating to make the point. We know he screens those calls because the tough questions never get through. That's not going to happen with me. I'm going to want to hear from everybody. When I was reelected in my first term, my first reelection as a state legislator, we had a poll, and the person who did the poll said, Eugene, I've never seen this before. If this election were happening with just Republicans, you would still win. That's because I build out coalitions, not because I'm just voting to try to make people happy. In fact, I do the opposite of that. I try to listen to everyone and then make the best judgment I can for what's best for the district. But people know they get heard with me.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think based on obviously your tenure as the Auditor General and even as a state representative, we know that you're fair, you're transparent. I think as you were one to share, being the first legislator to put your expenses online. You know, I think that's something that is refreshing and something that's lacking, especially from our congressman right now. So I appreciate you know, your willingness to reach out to those of us in the district. So thank you for that. So the next section that I have here, just quick, what we call our rapid fire questions. I had the opportunity, I did one of these with Shanna the other night, and we were joking about the fact that every single one of these probably is something that you could talk hours at length about.
But President Obama and Kamala Harris are going tonight, so we don't want.
That's right. So we're just, you know, I'm just looking for a yes or a no, or yes, you support it, no, you don't support it. But I also, you know, if there's one or two when we get to the end of the list that you do want to go back and you know, talk a little bit more about, we'll be happy to do that as well. So so let's just jump right in. The first one is national mail-in voting.
Absolutely.
Are you?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How about stronger gun safety legislation?
Absolutely. I've been endorsed by Brady Group and Mom's Demand because I believe I have common sense approach to that. Unlike the incumbent.
Yep. Investing in green technology, industry, jobs, everything as a whole.
Not only yes, but I sponsored legislation when I was a state house member that is now the Alternative Energy Investment Act that helped make Pennsylvania a leader in wind energy east of the Mississippi, and also one of the top leaders of solar in the country. And also we have voice hydro right in the district that makes that helps with low impact hydropower. So all of those are critical for our economy and our health and the environment and our future.
Okay. How about support for NATO?
Yes, we've got one. You know, like I know there's yes or no, so let's start with yes. The next Congress and the next administration has to do a job of reestablishing America's relationships with our allies and even our adversaries, having frank, sometimes could be tough discussions on rebuilding our relationships. Because you take like an issue like climate change, the U.S. cannot do that alone. We've got to have partners across the world, even countries that may never be our friends. So we have to do that. There's just no debate.
How about federal increase to the minimum wage?
Absolutely. I believe it should go to $15 an hour. I know that's got to get phased in over a period of a couple of years. And I also believe that it should be indexed to inflation to make sure that we don't go back to a place where it hasn't been raised since 2005, 2006, which is simply unacceptable.
Yeah. Reform to the election finance laws.
Yeah, I believe Citizens United should be overturned. Having said that, if the Supreme Court won't do that, at a minimum, we should pass a law requiring the donations to those dark money groups to have to disclose who's giving that money so you can at least hold them accountable. My campaign, you can go on the FEC website and see all those donations. Same with Scott Perry too. I mean, it's not, when people give to the campaigns, you can hold us accountable for that. But these dark money groups don't have to disclose their donors. That needs to change.
Regulation of prescription drug companies.
Yeah, the answer is A, absolutely, and B, the federal government should be given the ability to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. Absolutely unacceptable that we don't have that.
Now this one's a little bit more broad, but I have ending voter suppression, especially through ending gerrymandering.
Yeah, so I actually introduced the Iowa redistricting bill when I was a member of the state house. I think the voters should be picking their politicians, not the other way around. So one thing I am pleased about is so many of the state house and state senate candidates that are running, because that's really where this happens, have taken the pledge on ending gerrymandering. So I believe that if we get that majority or close to it, I know where Governor Wolf has signaled his support, I think we'll see structural change in Pennsylvania moving forward.
How about expansion of Social Security?
The answer is absolutely yes. Social Security is we have the lowest poverty rate among seniors in the world. It's mostly because of Social Security. And then you have Scott Perry who wants to privatize it and take money out of it, further jeopardizing it. That is going to be a critical distinction between us as we move into the heated general election.
Support for universal child care.
Absolutely. And certainly what we're seeing now with COVID and the impact of when you're having virtual school, it is critical that everybody have access to childcare. It is now a part of our economy that has to happen. If we want people to go to work, they're going to need childcare, plain and simple.
And just, again, very broad, but kind of strengthening human rights.
The answer is yes. Obviously, we're going to have a challenge doing that across the world. And that gets back to my point previously on the UN question. We've got to reestablish the United States as a leader, that we open dialogue with all countries, and that we promote our own human rights internally and be a shining example across the world. And then when other countries aren't doing the same, we will be in a much more morally strong position to make the case on why they need to change.
Excellent, great. Obviously, you've talked a little bit. Is there any one of those that you wanted to delve a little bit deeper into, or I think you kind of added?
I feel I probably was adding a couple editorials along the way, so we're good on my end.
Awesome. So I know we have a couple people that are watching us here on Facebook now. So if anybody has any questions, they can jot those down. And while they're doing that, I'll give you an opportunity just to let folks know where they can find more information about your campaign, how to contribute to your campaign, both as a volunteer or monetarily as well.
So you can go to eugeneforcongress.com, and that's FOR Congress.com. You can donate through there. You can volunteer through there. Certainly you can email the campaign at info@eugeneforcongress.com. Rochelle Fortier is my campaign manager, myself. People can contact us directly as well, although that may not be the most efficient way to do it, but certainly that's the way to do it as well. We have, you can access the campaign through the Facebook page, which is Eugene DePasquale. I know we have Twitter at DePasquale PA. So you can follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. You can sign up for the emails. People a year ago said, I'm not getting any emails. I said, be careful what you ask for. Now they're like, I get an email a day. So I told you, be careful what you wish for. I say that somewhat tongue in cheek there. But we are communicating through email, Facebook, Twitter, and certainly, obviously, the television commercials as well. But for people that want to volunteer or donate, go to eugeneforcongress.com. That's the best way to do that.
Great. And I'll just add, too, I know your campaign's been doing a lot of phone banking, getting calls out to folks all across the district. And obviously, this is kind of a non-traditional type of campaign in the sense that, we normally say the best way to reach a voter is to be standing on their doorstep, talking to them one-on-one, and unfortunately, we can't do that now. So, as the chair of the party, I'll always mention the fact that I know phone banking is not always everyone's favorite thing to do, but in 2020, this is the year that if you're going to step outside of your comfort zone, this would be the year to do it. And certainly, not just for you, for the presidential, for our state house, state senate races as well.
There's no doubt about it, Chad. Look, I love knocking on doors probably more than anything else in campaigning, and just can't do it because we've got to look out for our fellow citizens. So that's not an option, at least for the next month or two. It may be the whole campaign, but at least the next month, that's not going to happen. Now we may have some, no knock lick dropping, there's some, maybe some safe ways to do that. We're walking through that, but there will be no door knocking, talking to people on their front porch for at least the next month. And don't say that means we're definitely going to move it beyond that. I just know the next month it's out. And there's a pretty good chance we won't do it at all. So if you want to help the campaign, I know calling and texting is not always the most glamorous thing to do, but that's what we're doing. That helping deliver signs, writing letters to the editor, those are all helpful tools.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I proudly have 2 of your signs out in front of our house right now. So,
Thank you.
So yeah, no problem. So I don't see any questions here, so I'll give you the opportunity if you have any closing remarks that you want to make to go ahead and do that.
I just want to say, everyone, thank you for helping not just get me, but this campaign to where we are right now, which is we're either in a dead heat or slightly ahead of an incumbent. That's one of the few races in the country. And with your help, whether it's be volunteering, donating, letter to the editor, however that is, we've got, starting tomorrow, 75 days. I take them one a day at a time, but we've got 75 days help get me over the finish line and other Democrats over the finish line so we can get this country back on track. There is simply no, this year, when you just look around, there is no denying how critical this election is. And with your help, I'll be down there in Washington doing what I got to do to help get our country and our region back on track. And with your help, we're going to get there. So please, let's just do everything we can every single day for the next 75 days. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. Again, thanks for taking time out tonight. Like I said, I know you have a busy schedule, so we appreciate it. And I'll put a plug in for the party as well. Check out our website at yorkdems.org, and we're all over social media as well. And we have lots of information on how to get involved. We include all of the information of the various campaign activities that are going on out there for the different candidates. So, by all means, if you can help, again, this is the year to do it. If you've never thought about being politically active before, this is the year to do it. It's by far the most important presidential election that we've seen. And we know with the opportunities that Eugene, you talked about with potentially flipping the 10th district, as well as some of the Senate seats and state house seats as well, we have a chance to really kind of reshape what the political landscape is going to look like for decades, actually. So this is a very important year. So get involved, and certainly either through the candidates pages or through our page at yorkdems.org. So again, Eugene, thank you. I appreciate all you do for us, both as the Auditor General and come a few months from now when you're sworn in as our next congressman, we will be there cheering you on. If not in person, we'll be doing it virtually, I'm sure.
We'll figure that out. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chad. And thank you for everybody tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Let's go win this thing. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you.